This is ogforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Paya. Paya offers Acumatica users a suite of industry-leading payment orchestration tools. Far beyond native Acumatica payments, Paya enables EMV NFC terminals for countersale. They offer a frictionless customer portal through their click-to-pay solution, and they support most e-commerce platforms and point-of-sale solutions used with Acumatica, such as One Retail and AcuPOS. And best of all, omni-channel reconciliation is available for all their solutions. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Aldrich Web Solutions. Are you a distributor using Acumatica, yet struggling with an e-commerce fit? US-based Aldrich Web Solutions out of Marion, Illinois, has 2 decades of experience helping distributors find success online. Our team of experts built the integration, creating websites that work effortlessly with Acumatica. With our reputation for swift customer service and meticulous attention to detail, we are the perfect fit for distributors needing online solutions. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. I mean guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Today is Friday, September 29th, 2023, and this is episode number 113. You can find related links on the episode page at augforums.com/episode 113. Today we're talking with Mark Rockwell about pricing in general, related to Acumatica and not related to Acumatica. Hey, Mark, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Tim. Wonderful to be here with you.
So I always like to start off with the brief origin story of all of our guests. Maybe you could tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you landed in this world of mid-market ERP.
Sounds great. I grew up in the Washington State, moved around a few times, landed in Colorado, love it there. Went to college, was a very good student, and I went to grad school and realized it got really hard. So I got a job as a bank teller, realized I'm not really good at customer service when it comes to people who can't add and subtract. So my wife found an entry-level programming job for me, and I signed up for that and excelled really well. I'm like, wow, I really like this programming thing. And so I went to work for a VAR in the Dynamics GP space, and I got a job there. And after a couple of years, like, wow, I could probably do this on my own. So I broke out on my own and been coding in the ERP space ever since.
So can I ask what year or what decade that was that you started at that VAR in the GP space?
That was about 96, 97, 98, 97, 98, somewhere in there. Yeah.
So
So
you're a
some
20 plus year veteran in the mid-market ERP space.
yes, and I was realizing if you include that time, it's like we're close to getting close to 30. It's like, yeah, been around a long time.
Well, that's good. You bring a lot of experience to the space, and you know, I you get permission at the end to decide if we publish this or not. But I'll just be honest. Whenever an ISV reaches out to me, going to Summit and walking around the marketplace, it feels like swimming with sharks. Like everyone comes up, "Hey,
I know.
how
I
you
know.
doing there?" And so whenever an ISV reaches out, I'm always like, not really that interested. But you wore me down. You were very persistent, and then the bullet points you sent me this morning, some of them were quite hilarious and very honest and transparent. So I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to this conversation. So
Yeah.
thanks for being persistent, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to
Well, and I
say.
appreciate the chance too, because and then we try to wear down, or I try to wear down on people and be persistent because I think ISVs are boring, and it is a shark show. And even when I go to other expos and things, it's like, "Hi, how you doing?" Even going into Costco anymore, it's like you got the guy from the solar panel, like Costco, come on, don't do this to me. I actually go down the aisle to avoid him because I hate that as well. But you do have to reach out and with a hook and say, "Hey, can I talk to you about this or whatever?" I've also learned that what you put on the backdrop of your booth, it really matters too. There's a great ISV that I really respect in the channel, but they had a baseball theme. I'm like, you sell baseball products? It has nothing to do with what you sell. So make it really clear. We do pricing, for instance, something like that. But yeah, we try to be inventive and fun in trade shows because it is so boring, and you do want to kind of stand out. And so we've done jingles, we've done songs, we dress up sometimes. We're a little more formal nowadays, but yeah, accounting software is boring. Let's make it fun. So and the stories matter. Let's talk about things that matter, not about what my let me show you a demo screen of my pricing here. This is solid fun. People don't necessarily, I mean, they care ultimately, but they want to get to know you first. They want to know that you're not some creepo weirdo just trying to sell me something.
Yeah, and I guess for me, it's not that it's boring. I actually think it is interesting. What's hard for me is knowing how to vet out the ISVs that are good from the ISVs that are just like, just starting off or don't really have they have a lot of smoke and mirrors. But yeah, so maybe give us a little bit. You do something with pricing. Go ahead and give us some background on what you do and how long you've been doing it. Sounds like it's been a while, but yeah,
Yeah.
give us a little overview.
Yeah, well, we have had a pricing product for about 15, going on close to 20 years. That was in the GP space as well, and it was called OmniPrice. And we actually still sell and carry that. And it had a kind of an ingenious idea behind it is let's add the ability to group and filter stuff together. Like a bunch of customers get this kind of pricing, a bunch of items get this kind of pricing, which is incredibly common in how people think about pricing. It's really typical to have tiers of customers: gold, silver, bronze, and they each get different discounts, for instance. And also, when you're running a promotion or something, this software could track a given promotion to a special GL account, so you could see how much money are we moving on this promotion. But we've had this software for quite a while, and people have asked for more, and they keep asking more. And so we were like, well, let's add this feature, let's add that feature, and we finally decided, you know what, it's time to revamp this from the ground up. Let's take all this, 20 years of information that people have shared with us, and let's build a whole new pricing engine that makes sense. And because we've expanded into Acumatica as well, let's make an engine that makes sense to work with any ERP system. And so that's what we did, and it's been quite successful. We're really uh, branching out into the Acumatica space now and getting a lot of good feedback. And that's because we've made it a little more universal. Instead of having like grouping by, say, a customer class, well, we want to group by zip code. Like, okay, well, let's group. Well, we want to group by the salesperson that sold it, and then we want to group by some other things. And we're like, okay, well, rather than adding just those things, why don't we just make a universal concept that you can group by anything you want to? Likewise for items. And so just a universal dimension to thing. And so what we've built is an engine that's multi-dimensional in an infinite way, like a ever unfolding. It can get really complicated, but we've certainly tried to simplify that, because most pricing is a customer item price list. It's just, here's the customer, here's the item, here's what the price is. But when you throw in things like the geography or how much the customer has done business with you in the past, whether these items are sitting on our shelves taking up space and they need to be discounted. And then you add geography or other elements, and the fact that it's a Tuesday or that it's the month of December and we want to run a promotion, you pretty soon get down to 10 dimensions. And building a spreadsheet that has 10 dimensions is pretty much impossible. And it's those dimensions never seem to end. People get really creative about what they want to do and how they want to slice and dice. So we've created a way to slice and dice any way you can imagine in order to make sense out of your pricing and derive the right pricing from a pricing management standpoint.
And can I ask you, you might not know on the specific Acumatica part here since you're more on the product in general, but do you know how you pull the data out of Acumatica? Is it as simple as I get to create the generic inquiry that feeds you the data that you're looking for, or how does that
Yeah,
work?
things like the attributes. So when we install, we get your customer and item data, and we push it over to our engine, and then any attributes that you have that go with it. And so we use export scenarios for that to push the data from Acumatica. So anytime you change a customer and their class and information about them, their geography, whatever, that pushes over into our engine. And then when you make a pricing call, our engine knows that the customer looks up those information, slices and dices, and gets the price that it needs to and passes it back to Acumatica.
And someone could add things to it, like you mentioned, hey, we want to
Absolutely.
discount this stuff that's old. They could, I assume, then look up the oldest lot expiration date on an item in inventory, or even look at the quantity on hand, something like that, and just feed that as an additional column in the export scenario.
Bingo. You've absolutely nailed it. Yeah. You want to be part of my
Interesting.
sales staff? This is great. Yeah.
No,
And
that's
anything,
cool. That's
yeah.
cool.
And on the fly is like as you change and adapt your pricing strategy over time, it's super easy to just say, okay, I now want to use, for instance, the quantity on hand as a factor that determines the price. If we're overstocked on something, I want to have a discount.
Or the
That's
last time it was sold, right? I would just
Yeah. If
grab
it's
the
moving really
last time
slow,
the item was sold. Yeah, that makes sense.
absolutely. So you can pass that information to the engine, and we can use that to do a calculation. So
So it
what
sounds like
happens?
it when you say dimension, it's almost like you can create pricing entities for anything that you want, and then can you attach, effective dates and expiration dates to any of those entities as well?
Absolutely, all the above. Yep,
Interesting, interesting. And
everything's
can you make those effective date and expiration dates dynamic and that they're
mhm,
getting populated by another data field?
absolutely. Yep, and
Interesting.
that was actually a feature that we added about 3 or 4 months ago. Whereas if you if you wanted, for instance, to put a date on a customer, I don't know why you would, but hey, if you wanted to put a date that this actually, yeah, that is a good example. This customer, we have an attribute field that says their special pricing ends on March 3rd. Well, if you pass the March 3rd date as that's the when this ends, you can pass it to the engine, and then the rule would say, "Oh, sorry, you're past that date." So anything that you can dream up and imagine can be tracked as an attribute and then sent to the engine, and the engine can use to slice and dice and get you the price you need.
So then when I'm on a, let's just say the sales order screen in
Mhm.
Acumatica, and I put in an item and a quantity and the typical Acumatica pricing kicks in to populate that unit cost field, are you somehow intercepting that and sending back your own pricing engine's result?
Exactly. Yep. We intercept the hook where the unit price is, and we replace it with our calculated unit price. Override that. We also send back a customer price class, which is a price schedule to say this is the area that we found it in the engine. We also pass back a diagnostic log that is great for insomniacs trying to get sleep. But it just gives you a breakdown of every single calculation we went through, where we started, how we manipulated this, and that way you can help troubleshoot, like, how did you derive this price, because some people have some pretty complicated things, and we try to break it down and simplify. It's like, oh, here's where it worked in the process. Oh, remember, we found this customer, they're part of the gold group, that's why they got this 10% discount, and here's how the calculation of 10% was done. It was based on this price over here that we started with. Like, oh, that way you can kind of figure out how the price was derived, and is my logic working.
Cool. And so you got you're intercepting the unit price field. Are you also intercepting the discount field as well if someone wanted to calculate discounts?
Great question. No, we leave the discount field alone on the line so you can still use it. And what we do instead is we have infinite discounts. And that's one of the most limiting factors of any ERP system is you get one discount field. Well, if you're doing a discount because they're a gold customer and you're doing a discount because we've got a December promotion going on, and I'm giving a discount on the item that they're buying because this item is overstocked and I need to sell it, well, I want to track those three discounts. And with one discount field that just goes to a generic general ledger account, you don't know why you're discounting this. So now you have infinite discounts. And so we have a sub table to each line that also comes back. We call these price adjustments, and you can say, here's the gold customer discount of 10%, and that is tracked, and track that to its own GL account if you want. And then here's the discount for the item being out of stock or being overstocked, and here's another discount for the promotion that's going on. And not only
Interesting.
and not only
So,
that, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so then that would flow onto the invoice as well, so I could print because I know with
Correct.
discounts, a big part of it is being able to show the customer. So then you could show all those layers because you're going to pass that info on as line
Exactly.
items underneath the line on the invoice as well.
Yep. Yep.
Interesting.
And I just wrote a blog on this, so I need to insert some transparency right here. Whenever you're talking to an ISV and they're like, "Yes, you can do that," I need to tell you that yes, getting that on the invoice will cost you extra. Everything else I've talked to you about comes in the core product because you have to customize your invoice to add that information there. It's not hard to do, but it still needs to be done. And usually your VAR would do that. But that is not a natural thing that necessarily flows. However, I'm also writing that down right now as a great thing to include is a modified invoice with it. So where all those discounts do show up.
And you're just talking about the printed form. The data is
Yep.
there out of the box. You're just
Oh,
talking
the
about,
data's
yeah,
there.
modifying the form
Yeah.
would yeah, be extra.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
That makes
that's
sense.
a 15 to 30 minute exercise, maybe an hour.
Sure. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a big add-on, but it's
Well,
everyone has to modify their invoice form. That makes sense.
and the cool part about these price adjustments that come back is that you're not just dealing with discounts, is you're also dealing with rebates. And so if you have a vendor rebate, such as we need to collect 6% on certain items, we can now track that as a price adjustment. It hits the GL, and that adjustment doesn't need to adjust the price. We have the ability to adjust the price or the unit price, or not, and then we track that to a GL, and then we have a rebate screen where we can take all of the vendor rebates that have accrued over, say, a given month, and now we can create a document and bill that vendor, say, hey, this is the rebates we accrued. You owed us that much money. And what's really handy about that is when it comes to rebates, a lot of companies are losing money because of how rebate structures work through the industry. I do not comprehend why the food industry specifically does this, but they will do they will do this. They'll say, "All right, this item, I'm going to buy it from the vendor for $1, and then I'm going to sell it to my customer for 99 cents." And then I'm going to get a rebate of 2 cents from the vendor to get me back up to $1 after the fact. And I've run into this so many times, and I just ask, why are you doing this? Like, oh, that's how the industry works. Like, can we change that? No, I cannot invoke change. I've been trying to change industries all the time. All I can do is write better software to handle the stupidity of it all. So that's what we try to do. But as you can imagine, you're selling things at a loss, and these companies are tracking all this crap in Excel spreadsheets. And if you lose it, I mean, you are losing money by selling. Like, who does that? But a lot of companies do. And so if you can track those rebates and make sure that you get paid on them and have cross checks and audit them, then that's really, really handy.
So you lose me a little bit with rebates. I don't understand it fully, but what I'm curious about is this. Um, and you can go into the technical part if you want.
Mhm,
I love the technical details. But my struggle a lot of times with an ISV product is
mhm,
that now you've got two sources of data. You've got the ERP system with its data, and
mhm.
you've got data outside, and combining those two can be difficult. With
Agreed.
you've already talked about the discounts get pulled
Mhm,
back in. Of course,
mhm,
the price gets pulled back in.
mhm.
What about the rebates? Does that get pulled back in?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So going back to the discounts, as you can imagine, on a given line, you expand the line, you can see discount one, two, and three different discounts, right? You can visualize that. Additionally, there's a fourth line, and the fourth line is a rebate of, say, 6% off something. Now, that rebate did not affect the unit price, but we're still tracking it to a general ledger account. And so the price,
And you're
it's a
tagging a vendor on it as well.
actually, no, not necessarily. We're just putting it to a GL account, and typically, because you set it up for a given vendor, you know that GL account is for them.
Okay.
And so when you go to process your rebates, that because that hit the general ledger, you can query it up by that general ledger account and say, oh, these are the ones for that add up for that given vendor. And so now we know to send it to that vendor. So you do have to make that connection about which GL account you're hitting it towards. However, you can also name the promotions account and run a report on all the price adjustments that came back. Let me give you another example of a price adjustment that might also be that's similar. Just like you can do a price adjustment for a rebate, you can calculate commissions with our engine as well, sales commissions. So if you sell something for
One
$100,
second. Before we
yep,
go to commissions, I am interested on the rebates. I wanna
okay, they
linger
work
there
the
a little
same.
bit longer.
Okay.
So on the rebates, so I like your food service example. We
Hmm.
sell it for 99 cents, even though it costs us a dollar.
Hmm.
We know we're gonna get 2 cents back. It's gonna make us profitable by a penny. Is it that you're going to what I'm thinking about is profitability analysis at the line level in
Hmm.
Acumatica. So your
Hmm.
default profitability reports in Acumatica are invoice line based. So it
Hmm.
looks at every invoice line and it knows your price, it knows your cost,
Yep.
so it calculates a profit, right? So since you're bringing all that back into the invoice lines, it
Hmm.
sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but that I would know that I sold it for 99 cents. I would know that it cost me a dollar. And I
Hmm.
would know because of that extra line that's a rebate, I would know that I'm getting like a negative adjustment to the line for the 2 cents. So I would know that
Right.
I'm profitable at by 1 penny on the individual invoice line. Is that right?
Bingo, you nailed it all. Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So sorry that helps me
Yeah.
round out the rebates because I know that's always the struggle is like
Hmm.
if I can do it at the invoice line level,
Yep.
then I know I can slice and dice my profitability by product, by customer, by
Exactly.
date, by all the things that I need to slice and dice by, as long as I have it at that granular level. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you may want to include in your analysis the fact that there was a discount. Do you include that discount in your analysis or not? Um,
Hmm.
or do you not? You get the choice because all the data is there. And so now you can really get some rich reporting and understanding of like how are these discounts, how are these rebates, how are they impacting us? Are we processing them? Certainly with the rebate being tracked, that 2 cents difference being tracked to a general ledger account is you can then take your receivables and then look at this account of okay, here's the rebates that have not yet been paid and add them together if you need to, depending on how you want to report on your information. The cool part is that the information's there now, where is so many companies are doing this blindly, and if you just run a stock report, you're going to say, oh, we're selling this at a loss. Well, you kind of are, but now we have additional data that you can put into your analysis.
And I want to hit another thing on the rebates, and this might segue nicely into commissions, where it sounds like
Hmm.
you want to go next. So on the rebates, can I know when I'm expecting that rebate? Because it might this is where I think it flows into commissions. Like, can I know that I'm not yet profitable because I haven't gotten the rebate yet, or how would I attach some type of time element to the rebate line?
That's a great question, and that is all handled by you. What is happening though is that because you are tracking a rebate to a given line and it is hitting a general ledger account, when you post it, it's just accruing in your general ledger. So
Gotcha.
if you run a balance sheet or is typically where those would appear, you can say, oh, rebates accrued, not yet paid. Here they are. I got 50,000 in outstanding rebates here. Oh, let's go ahead and cash those in. I would then assume, and this is the assumption part, rather than being on a timed type basis, is that once a month or once a week, however, but whenever you want to process, is that the accounting department go, okay, let's make sure that we get those rebates. We know that they're accrued, so you go and pull up that general ledger account of accrued rebates. Say, here they are. Here's every line that's been sold in the last month with this rebate on it. Let's go ahead and sum them up. Okay, the grand total is 50 grand, and now let's click a button and create a document to go out and get that $50,000 collected back from the vendor.
So the rebate generation for the vendor is rather simple in that you're just totaling up whatever's sitting in
Correct.
that count. But from a reporting perspective, I could look at everything that lands in that account, and I could go look up the source transactions to be able to provide
Bingo.
the vendor with, here's all the customers that we sold
Exactly.
this product to. Okay.
Every line that, so that $50,000, every single dollar of that, you can tie it back to, here's the sales line, here's the sales document, the customer, the date, everything that you have in the entire stream of everything that was sold there to prove that you're worthy of this because these are the customers who got it. All of that data is there.
And if I had a contract with the vendor where the vendor actually, because I've worked with the food service, I'm thinking
Mhm.
food service right now. I've worked with a
Yep.
food service client here in Columbus, Ohio, and they yeah, their contracts could get bizarre. It can get as specific as the vendor will give you a certain rebate for a certain set of customers and a
Yes.
different set of rebates for a different set of customers.
Yes.
And you can handle that somehow?
Oh yeah, no problem.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So that's where the power of, you've got a rebate that goes to a vendor, but you've got a customer that's in a certain number of customers over here that get this type of rebate, and this other set of customers that get a different type of rebate. And you can have both of those rebates go to the same GL account, or you could have them go to two separate GL accounts if you want to handle them differently. That's totally up to you.
So it could go to the same GL account and you still
Mhm.
have the ability to know there's
Oh
different
yeah,
rates applied to different. Okay, interesting.
absolutely. Yep.
Very interesting.
Yes, it's very modular of how it calculates and how you can, again, with infinite dimensions, slice and dice anything. And so that's where it applies to commissions. Is commissions and rebates as well, they don't affect the unit price. If you sell something for $100 and there's a $10 discount, that's a discount that changes the price to 90. But the commission can be on the $100 or the $90 of 2%. It goes to the salesperson. That's just a cost. It doesn't affect the price, but you need to track that commission of that couple bucks, and that passes back as a price adjustment as well that you can see on every line item. Just like rebates, that commission would then hit a commission account in the GL, and once a month you can pull up and say, oh, here's all the commissions for my salesperson. Let's pay out those commissions now. Now that is a benefit of RPM. I don't necessarily want somebody to come buy RPM because it is a commission engine. There are more efficient ways to
Wait, you said
calculate commissions.
RPM. What's RPM?
I'm sorry. RPM is Rockton Pricing Management, and that is
Gotcha.
the name of
Okay.
the software that does all this stuff. So our history was OmniPrice. Now it's called RPM, Rockton Pricing Management, and it integrates with Acumatica. So the RPM engine can calculate all these things, hit the GL accounts, and give that information back. So
Is
the
there
price,
anything special then about commissions? Because it sounds like it's instead of a vendor, it's a salesperson, and the salesperson's
correct?
basically just a vendor. I mean, is there anything really different about commissions?
There isn't. There isn't. Now,
Interesting.
if you have a full blown commission system, it's likely going to integrate with payroll, for instance. And
Sure.
so I wouldn't buy RPM just because you need a full blown commission, but the calculations that it can do are phenomenal because this ability to slice and dice, like, well, I'm going to give commission on these products that are green, but not the red ones, and only if they sold 15 of those in the last month. But if they only sold 10, then the commission rate's going to be this. And if it's Thursday, that's bonus day, so we're going to give them a double commission. We can do all that. But it's going to pass back as a price adjustment to the GL, and then you have to accrue those and pay out that commission or add it to your payroll system there because we
So
didn't
yeah, so
design
you're
we
doing
didn't
it at
design
the GL level so that someone could pay it out as a vendor or they could pay it out as
correct
a payroll
as a customer as
entry.
well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so the concept of this price adjustment of calculating these things that are relative to the price is really powerful because now you have not only rebates and commissions, but now you have royalties. So now you have somebody that when stuff sells, you have to collect royalties. And so all of these price adjustments that get calculated, not only can you pay a vendor, but you can invoice or not only can you invoice a vendor saying you owe me money, we can pay a vendor, we can pay a customer, we can invoice a customer. And so it's unidirectional in money going in, money going out, because you're just tracking it to a GL account. And now what you do with that is money in or money out with it is totally up to you.
Interesting. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you could have. Yeah, no, that really bends your mind there.
Yeah, it does.
That's
Because
interesting.
because sometimes you need to track these things because somebody owes you money, and sometimes you need to track these things because you got to pay somebody money. Sometimes when you sell stuff, you have to pay a royalty fee of 10%. because you're co-branding it like, well, here's a report of all the stuff that we sold, um, and accrue it that way.
So I remember talking to a consultant one time, someone who I considered a seasoned mid-market ERP consultant, and we were talking about commissions specifically. And he threw out, based on his experience, 50-50. And
Hmm.
his point was, about 50% of the time, you can handle a company's commissions using the simplistic commissions tools in the ERP product. About
Hmm.
50% of the time, you go out to Excel or some third-party solution. What's your experience?
That is a great analogy, and I would say it's fairly true with pricing too. If your pricing is super simple,
Well, let's
to
stay
where
on
you know,
commissions. So
well,
like,
oh,
do you get pulled in just for commissions sometimes, I would think?
not yet, because
Ah,
we
okay.
don't market, because we don't market that way.
Okay.
Well, and yet it's a powerful thing. So I'm not out there pushing we're a commission product. I'm out there
Okay.
that we're a pricing product and a pricing management product. Rebates is where a lot of people need this stuff, but it's so powerful. It does so many things, including commissions. And like I could take royalty management. So we have marketing tracks to where we could say, hey, we got the great marketing, or sorry, royalty product, the Rockton royalty management system. We've actually talked about this, and so you could go in these niche markets. But yes, we could sell this as a commission product as well. If we were to market it as a commission product, I would then likely integrate with payroll or make those features, such as paying directly to the salesperson. I'd make those ties inside of Acumatica as part of the solution there. But that's not our key goal. But it's just this amazing benefit that comes with this package because of how we handle and calculate pricing.
Interesting. So it is just one product,
Yes.
right? And yeah, I mean, I've learned that just being involved with Acumatica. I'm a technical guy, so the
Mhm.
business side is not my strength, but just the way Acumatica markets these industry editions is smart. But it's just one product, so I could see, with your product, yeah, there's different ways of looking at it and being
Interest,
sold on it, right?
Interesting that you mentioned the industry versions. The construction edition, or field, sorry, the field service module, which I'm not sure if that's in a specific edition, but right now Acumatica does not do cost plus pricing. You cannot make a calculation based on cost, and we can. Unfortunately, the field service module is a separate module from the sales order entry, and so we're in the process of integrating with that sales module. And I've talked to Acumatic about that. As soon as we can integrate with the service module, then we have opened up very basic, simple cost plus pricing to a whole industry of people who are already on Acumatica and been very unhappy that this feature isn't there. Cost plus is a pretty basic thing that an ERP system should have, but for whatever reason, it doesn't have it inside of Acumatica. So this has really helped bridge that gap.
Yeah, so your current integration is to the sales order screen. Is it also to the invoice screen?
The sales order, invoice, and quotes,
And then you're adding it now to the service
and
area
we'll
as
be adding
well.
it to the
Okay.
service models. Correct.
Okay, interesting. And so quotes, do you mean quotes like the actual CRM quote screen, or do you just mean
No,
like quotes on the sales order
on the sales
screen?
order. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And then I also wanted to ask you on the sales order, there's the recalculate pricing button. Do you know if you
Mhm.
respect that? Like, will it regenerate the
Yeah, actually,
pricing?
we rely on that to, and when it recalculates it, it goes to our engine. One of the
Okay,
things
cool.
that's really handy about that is one of the features that's been asked in OmniPrice that OmniPrice can never do that we now do, um, are things like buy one get one free, or what I call multi-line. If you buy 5 vanilla shakes and you buy 5 chocolate shakes, and we have a discount if you buy 10 shakes as a total, because the lines independently they reference each other. Well, with the ability to recalculate the whole document, we can send the whole entire document. It can analyze, our engine will analyze the whole entire document and how they interrelate and give discounts based on the sum total of all the shakes that were sold, either chocolate or vanilla.
And where would you store that? So, like Acumatica has that concept. They've got line level, they've got group level, and they've got document level. Would you
Hmm.
then be storing like a layer on the document, I assume, because you can't really tie it to the individual line at that point?
Great, great question. It's still tied to the line. Everything we do is
Oh,
still tied to the line. And
interesting.
here's how we do that. We give the discount of 10% on each line, and you would call that a multi-lane discount, so that the chocolate shakes are discounted because you bought 10 of the order. So it's discounted by 10%, and the vanilla is discounted 10%. In the case of buy one, get one free, then the first line is at regular price. The second line is 100% discount because it's free, because that's the line that's getting the impact. We
Interesting.
we do not do anything at the document level at this time. It is requested often, but if you have a document discount, which there is a field in Acumatica, that's still there. We still respect it, and you can do document level discounts on top of what we're already doing. But in the case of multi-line, everything we do calculates is still tracked at an individual line level and only line level. It's isolated. Now we've added that feature of multi-line where you can rely on the fact that you have other things on your invoice, but ultimately the discount's here with this line.
For my technical brain likes that because now my profitability analysis just got a lot simpler because I know I can slice and dice on everything. If it's at the group level, that really complicates my ability to report on it.
Totally,
Interesting.
totally.
Interesting. No, very cool. I'm trying to think. I guess technical wise, I don't have any further questions. It sounds like we could go on the technical side. I was wondering though if we could kind of step back and talk. Well, actually, you know what? Before we go there, I sort of redirected you. I gave you the 50-50 analogy with commissions.
Mhm.
You were about to talk about how you get involved with pricing. What's your gut on, is it 50-50 or
Yeah, I
is
think
it?
50/50 is best I can tell. There's customers where the pricing is super simple. It's these customers, here's my price list, and this is what we sell it for. And I think in Acumatica you might be able to perhaps do a customer class. I've forgotten. There's a little bit things you can do, but um, if it gets much more complicated than that, then you have to start looking at a customization. And customizing is a nightmare. So how customizations start is this endless path of frustration. Suppose you need to track two discounts. Okay, so let's add some discount number two field. So you add that to there. And now, oh, well, I need that second discount to track to a different GL. Okay, let's add that logic in there. And so you work for that for a while, and then you add some grouping mechanism. So some additional discounts. We need another field. And then somebody says, well, I need a third discount now because that second discount's really nice. Oh my gosh. And so you're like, okay, well, let's modify the line here. And pretty soon you just end up with a mess. And that's incredibly common. So you want to be sure from a strategy standpoint that your logic of what you're trying to do can grow and expand with you. And from a strategy standpoint, your pricing should be simple or at least understandable, and you should be able to implement it. You should, and most important, you should be able to maintain and grow it, and as it expands over time.
And with your product, I guess first I should ask, I assumed it's a SaaS-based cloud product. Is that right?
It is.
And so do I log into your product to do the configuration, but a user who actually, is entering invoices never needs to log into the actual product, or how's that
You
work?
you've nailed it. Yep, you
Okay.
are quite the technical guy. That's exactly how it works. The end user experience is seamless. They don't even see it happening. It's just the price comes in, the discounts are there in the background. If you want to expand the line, you can see all the price adjustments, and some of them are editable if you want. And then from a management standpoint, there's a web-based application that sits outside of Acumatica that the pricing manager or sales manager or whoever's managing that comes and puts the rules in. And so it's usually
Gotcha.
one or two people, and that's a much better way to make sure that prices aren't getting changed
No,
by
I
the sales
like
people.
the clean break there with the data so that if I want to report on my rules, I know I need to go to the RPM software to report on that. If I want to report though on my actual profitability, I know I've got all that data in Acumatica.
Bingo.
So maybe I guess to round out the technical software part before I change gears and get more theoretical, can you give us like ballpark pricing or do you price by user? Do you price by Acumatica instance? How's that work?
Acumatica, it's by the size of application that you are, so the small, medium, large, extra large.
Okay. Okay.
So it starts around, I believe it's 599 a month for the smaller tier, then 699. And so the first five tiers, it just goes up by 100. So it's 599, 699, 799, 899, and 999. I may be off by $100 in one way, but gives you a ballpark there. And
Okay.
then the implementation is just 10 times that. So if you're paying 800 a month, the implementation is 8 grand.
Oh, that's simple. Yeah, and it makes, as you were talking about the configuration of the rules, I would expect that the implementation is not plug and play. Like
It is
you've got to
not.
set those
It is
things up.
not.
Yeah,
And
that makes
and
sense.
and I was worried about our implementation costs being too high or a price barrier. And we actually, as of late, we're losing money on our implementations, but I still think they're fairly cost. And that's because people do some complex, frankly, stupid things, some really stupid things. And I'm amazed at how many customers, and I mean, these customers are brilliant and bright, but they're in this juxtaposition of this immense pride about how complicated my pricing system is with this nightmare of I have to manage it though. And it's usually if it's a two-person team, like I'm so proud how complicated it is, and the other person has the drudgery of having to manage it. And what I'm amazed about time and time again is that the how they think about it is complicated, and the strategies that they come up with are almost ridiculous until you set them down and talk about it. It says, okay, if you can explain to me in human words in a conversation with me that I give a 10% discount to my gold customers, I give a 5% discount to my silver customers, and on Tuesdays we run a special. Okay, great. I can now take that information, and so our gift of our team is the ability to translate what sounds complicated and make it simple. Say, okay, well, here's what it's really boils down to is this is the algorithm about how we took this super complicated customer, and they had about 7 different tiers of things. They do specific customer pricing, then they do specific discounts for customer classes, then they do discounts for specific items, and then specific classes with specific items, and then customer classes with item classes, and they're all tiered. And it sounded really complicated, but when you write it down, it fit in a paragraph this big. And when you look at it, you go, "This is comprehensible and understandable."
I only
And yes,
record the audio, by the way. Your fingers are about an inch apart on the video, just so the listener knows.
forget about that part. Yeah, and so we simplify that into a way that you can understand the flow of how they think about it, which brings clarity about how they can change it, and brings clarity about how it's set up in our system, so that you know what part of the system to change in order to affect the streamline. So we just try to help people simplify what's complicated. And
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear there is that you're not really selling software. You're selling a pricing transformation process, the ability to go in and sift through what is likely a very complicated spaghetti of Excel spreadsheets and turn that into something that people can holistically understand and be confident in. Would you say that's
bingo.
accurate?
Yes, that's accurate. And you phrased it better. And I'm like, all right, 41 minutes in, marketing team, please, let's hire Tom. Because it does so many things, we're having a hard time with marketing. Is like, where do you start? It's like, do you start with, you got really excited about commissions. I'm like, well, that doesn't excite a lot of people, but I get why it excites you, because you've probably had a past bad experience with commissions that I can see that, you know but yeah, it is transformational. It's transformational about taking something complicated and making it simpler and easier. That's what we're all about. Our tagline is work simpler and easier. We try to take complex things and simplify them, and that's what gets me up in the morning, and that's what I love about coding, is just making things that are complicated become simple.
That resonates with me because I really like reporting. I like the business intelligence side of things. And I think it's very similar. I mean, really, what's the value of business intelligence? It's eliminating a ton of manual Excel reporting. And
Yep.
I remember I even listened to this. Did I listen to? No, it was like one of those. I signed up for some white paper thing on some entrepreneur website like a long time ago, and their whole thing was, how do you come up with a SaaS product? And so they had this whole long, like marketing sales page, and it was all geared towards like getting you on their newsletter so they could tell you the one question that you need to ask to find what to create a SaaS product for. And that was what they were pitching, right? So I signed up. I then eventually got, all their marketing emails, and eventually it landed on the one question. And the one question that you need to ask any business to come up with the SaaS product, a SaaS product. This is like for
Hmm.
someone who just wants to come up with a software product to sell. The one question was, tell me, what do you use Microsoft Excel for?
Oh my
So
God,
it's
that's
basically,
brilliant.
I mean, because it's the same with business intelligence. It sounds like
Uh-huh.
it's the same with pricing
Oh, it is.
because Excel is so flexible, right?
Hmm.
But they don't quite have a handle on it if it's being done in Excel, to your point, right? They
Yep.
can't, they don't really know how they're pricing holistically. And so to
Yep.
come in and actually put rules around that in a way that still works, but in a way that is now a database instead of a spreadsheet
Yep.
is huge.
It,
But
it,
how to convey that marketing wise, I don't know, but
well,
it's huge.
I'm with you there, and so glad you brought that up because one of the things is ditching Excel is part of some of the marketing things that we're doing because people are doing pricing in Excel, and it's horrible for many reasons. One is it's not auditable. You can't see changes. It's usually on somebody's desktop. One person's in charge of it, and if that person goes on vacation, where's that sheet at? And how? And you look at some of the formulas because when we're transforming people's pricing, they're sending us these Excel spreadsheets, and some of them are really complicated. But what I love is that you just click on any cell where there's this complex formula. Is ultimately that formula is just based on a number there, a number there, and a number over there. You're just pointing at other numbers, and then you're doing some math. The math actually is very simple, and our calculation engines just allow you to put simple math behind things, and then ask questions like, okay, where do you want to start? Do you want to start from cost and add 20%? Do you want to start from the list price and go down? Do you want to start from your own price list of some competitor information you have where you want to start there? And then I want to add these features, based on slicing and dicing, based on customer class, item class, this product group, whether it's Thursday, whether it's a Christmas promotion. Those are all just calculations that ultimately get you to an answer. And so pricing is simple, but it's not. And so we just can take all that stuff that's in Excel and make it into rules that are manageable in one single spot. Now there's this interesting thing is that we still to get data in and out or to report on, we still use Excel along with RPM because people want price lists or they want to see what's the
Sure.
list of all my discounts so you can spit that out because Excel's really
I
great for
love
that.
Excel as a reporting tool.
Oh, it's
I love
great.
it. I don't like it as a database, right? Yeah.
No, it is not a good database. Um, just because you brought up Excel, I'm sorry. I have this jingle in the background that I have on my desk that I just remembered, and I'm going to share with you if you don't mind.
I don't
So
mind.
we're going to a summit in the dynamic space next month, but when we'll be going to the Acumatica summit in January as well. And one of the things that I've done over the years, again, to make more fun out of selling boring software and being a accounting software is let's have some fun. So this is a jingle in progress. So it's this is just the chorus of a song that I wrote. We've got a super cool and magic tool to manage all your pricing, discounts, rebates, margin calcs. It surely is enticing. Use attributes and product groups for slicing and for dicing. Ditch Excel, get out of hell. Stop with the sacrificing.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Oh, that is definitely that right there is worth having to publish this podcast episode. You can't say no at this point. We have to get that out there.
Yeah, we're trying to find effective ways to get people to understand what does our software do. I do you think in four lines of verse there we got to kind of got the idea?
Oh, that's great. I love it. I love it. You worked Excel hell in there as well. Oh, that's great. That's well done. I got to send you. I did. I'm working on a little side software product. I'm calling Og Sequel, and I did a little jingle as well for it. I'll have
Oh,
to send that to
fantastic!
you.
Love
You'll
to hear it.
appreciate
Love to hear
that. I'll send you my Acumatica song as well. That one's longer. It's like a 5-6 minute thing, but
Oh,
I
great.
love that. I love that. That's great. Thanks for doing that. Oh, that's awesome. So, I mean, yeah, another point about Excel, um, when you were talking about the flexibility of your product, infinite dimensions and things, that was making sense to me. And it sounded like the flexibility of a spreadsheet. So I did want to ask you, have you ever encountered an Excel spreadsheet that was not going to work for your pricing? I mean, be honest, for your pricing engine.
Quite honestly, no. And
That
I'm
makes
sorry.
sense. That's the answer I was
Yeah,
expecting because it sounds like you approached it very similarly.
yeah,
You didn't shoehorn it into only these certain things. You
right.
made it the flexibility to be able to calculate it any way you want.
Yep. And it's a struggle for us because it's so flexible and you can do anything. It's hard to relate to when I'm, even
Right.
and so you were struggling with understanding this concept of rebates, and so it takes time to explain, and that's hard. But I'd rather have that problem than the inability to flexibly solve people's problems. And so,
Yeah, it does sound like your main challenge is not technical. Your main challenge is marketing and selling, like how to
yeah,
explain how to find the niches where this thing really makes sense and how to communicate that your product can meet the need. Does sound like your
exactly.
main challenge. Yeah.
That is, and then and to do that succinctly, and that's where I think this jingle comes in. In 15, 20 seconds, I think we we hopefully get some of the things in there, at least get your attention. But yeah, to explain all those things is absolutely challenging. So we do have some marketing challenges there.
I wanted to ask you too about kind of taking it up to the 50,000 foot level here. Um, you being in essentially the mid market for 20 plus years. Um, if I think about tiny companies, you're fine running on QuickBooks. You're fine even kind of manually calculating pricing. If I think about a gigantic company, you've got like you start to get into commodity type of areas, right? Where you then
Hmm.
have like government involvement, you have like Wall Street involvement, and you don't have the creativity, the ability to be as creative as you want. But when you're in the mid market, you're in a space where price is in many times completely disconnected from cost.
Hmm.
Like, you mentioned the ability to drive pricing directly from cost. That's needed in industries like food service we talked about.
Hmm.
But in other situations, it's like the two are completely disconnected.
They
And
are.
and I was wondering if you could just talk in general, forget about the
Yeah.
product in general, but just from what you've seen in the mid market the last 20 years, how important is that for a company to really sit down and evaluate their pricing strategy completely independent of cost?
Right. Strategy is tough, and and each company does have to define a strategy, and unfortunately, sometimes they don't. In general, the strategies that are easy to figure out are ones that are based on cost, or we're trying to get a certain margin, or here's a goal, or our vendor publishes a price list that we cannot argue with, and so that's what the price is going to be. Those are easier thing. Where it comes in is mainly from competitive pricing. Is that's where the exception comes in, where I have to say, hey, um, my competitor, which I'm going to lose my customer to down the street, is selling this for a few pennies less than I am, and they're very, very price sensitive. And so they have processes and procedures to go hunt down what that price is and make sure that theirs is a penny or less, or more. To be very, very clear, we do not handle that. That's a great realm for AI. It's a great line, for research and out there. But there are companies who do that. But once you have that information, you do have to put it in your pricing engine to make sure that you're honoring that. And so collecting that is challenging and beyond the scope of what our product does. But once you have that information, managing it in our system is super easy because that list of these are the competitor prices in these situations, this is locked in. But in all the other cases, here's the cost plus, here's the list price discount, here's the discounts and all these other things, but this rules. And furthermore, what's challenging about competitive pricing is sometimes you have to accept that you're going to lose money, but with our engine, you can also set a threshold that says, I don't care what the competitor price is, our minimum is 20% over cost. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. So I don't. So let's put in a safety net that says we're at least making 20% margin over cost to cover our overhead before we accept fully these competitive prices. But what's interesting about these strategies is that you've got certain people who handle the exceptions of just the commodity based price or the competitive pricing, and then you've got other people who handle the other components of it, such as are we making margin, how should we price our stuff, what's our go to market strategy with there, do all our prices need to end in 99 cents? Yes. And so we can handle that. We can handle that too. um, and so we just have the ability to put all those pieces together and stack them and rank them in whatever order you need to, so that the right price is coming at the right time.
So that response makes sense. You're not management consultant pricing strategy guy. You are give me the marching orders and I'm going to make it work in a way that's automated so you don't have to calculate manually. That makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, there's plenty of like management consulting firms out there that'll charge you
Hmm.
$500 an hour to come up with, a new pricing strategy. You're
Correct.
more
Or
about executing on,
yep.
the
Or and there's
logistics of it.
Exactly. We are a pricing management system. So we manage your pricing, and we can help with that. And we can also read in commodity sources like from beef and pork that changes every day. We can read those prices in, make those part of your calculations as well. But going back to management versus strategy, um, this was a hard concept for me to get my head around and explain to customers. A few years ago, we wrote an auditing product in the GP space. And by the way, we have an advanced auditing product coming up for Acumatica because some of the auditing features are bad, which is a whole nother topic. But
Wait, because you say where they're auditing what?
they're auditing the data inside of the ERP system,
Okay.
auditing
Okay.
changes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So what there was this huge push for Sarbanes-Oxley after the Enron collapse, 20 some years ago. And people thought that if I buy a software auditing product, then I am compliant with Sarbanes-Oxley. No, you're not. This is a tool to help you reach compliance. RPM is a tool to help you with pricing, manage the pricing, get the pricing right, make it understandable, implementable, and maintainable so that you can grow around it. But your strategy is still something that you have to come up with as a business. I can't fix stupid, I can't fix inefficient, and I can't fix the conscious choice to make it more complicated than it needs to be. And I've also learned to not, it's pretty judgmental when you say stupid because it's frustrating at front. It seems stupid at front, but actually when you talk to these companies and you delve in, there's some really complicated reasons of why their pricing has to be complicated. The number one reason being because of the competition of pricing. It's like, well, this one needs to be a penny under, this one needs, I mean, it can get complicated. These are smart people, so I shouldn't, insult them there. But there are a lot of cases where, well, we've been doing it that way for so long, and I just ask the questions and I try to bring them down. As part of your strategy, do you want to change something different? Because I can help you automate the hard part, but let's automate it and make it simpler too. So strategy is definitely another thing that is part of the consulting, the implementation. We do that as best we can, but ultimately the company has to choose to change. And I'm usually pretty frank with the people saying, by the way, are you open to changing how you do pricing? And some people are begging. And some people are like, nope, absolutely not. So I just ask. And depending on their comfort level of what they want to change, totally up to them. Another great example is I work with a company where I said, hey, when you get this pricing down um, and you get it really solid because there's so many things, you should lock down the fact that your salespeople, when they do the data entry, they cannot change the price. And they're like, oh yeah, we want that because right now people are going in, changing the prices, using this spreadsheet over here, they're cross-referencing, and they're making mistakes, as they should because they're reading Excel spreadsheets. So we want this engine to do it correctly and lock it in. But I said, I want you to know how big's your sales staff. They have 20 people. I said, before you buy my product, you need to understand that you're probably going to lose 2 people, and you might even lose your best salesperson if you implement this, because you're going to take away their autonomy. You're going to take away their ability to think about offering a customer. Their joy in life is solving a customer problem and selling it, and we're going to take that away. Are you aware of that? They're like, oh, yeah, that's still something that we want to do because we want a lot because we're losing so much money by people faking it or getting it wrong that we'd rather lock it down. And so there's always, whenever you solve a problem, you always create a new one. And that is something I try to let people know about. Part of the strategy is changing how you do business. And that sometimes will cause turnover. Just like when you implement a new ERP system, turnover is actually happens quite often. Somebody gets frustrated because they've been there for 20 years and they did it in Excel and QuickBooks all this time. I don't want this newfangled Acumatica thing. It's just part of change management.
That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. Um, and so it sounds like you kind of introduce strategy incrementally. You
Yes.
just don't go in holistically and rip out and replace a pricing strategy. Do you have anyone that you refer customers to if you realize, you really need to get your ducks in a row before you look at it at RPM?
Actually, what I do is in the complicated sessions is I explain to them, look, and usually it's because they cannot explain to me how they do their pricing. They're so lost. And I say, okay, and they just go down these rabbit holes. Just tell me, does this customer get a discount? Or answer this question. Customer A and customer B, they get different prices. Why? Well, and they don't know why. I offer or started offering consulting, and just based on how complicated it sounds like, I said, I can throw in, if you want, we can do some consulting on this and actually talk about what you're doing. I have offered to go out to their company and whiteboard with 3 or 4 people in the room. Let's go through this strategy here. Nobody's taken me up on that yet, but uh, but doing a pre-engagement consulting engagement is something that we actually can do as well and
Okay.
have done. Is just say, hey, let's go through what you're doing and let's make sense of that before we invest in this product. And furthermore, in this one particular engagement, I said, I'm pretty sure that our software can solve your problem, but I don't know. And the last thing I want to do is sell you a piece of software you don't need, because I want raving customers. If we don't solve your problem, don't buy my software. So let's make sure that I understand it and then I can tell you, hey, yep, it's going to solve this problem, or this little piece over here is not going to work. But before we meet next time, I might code it in. So it does. And and we do that too.
So someone could engage with you on a consulting basis to assess their pricing strategy without even
A-
buying your software.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
cool.
Yep.
Um, let's see. There was one other place. How are you on time, by the way? We're at the top of the
I'm great
hour.
on time.
Okay.
We can take as much time. I love talking.
No, this has been interesting.
This has been fun.
Let's see. There was one other thing I wanted to go, and I just lost it. Let's see. We talked about kind of pricing in general,
Management versus strategy.
management versus strategy. Bummer. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Consulting and getting companies to change what they do.
Yeah. So I like that you can, I really like that you can engage on a consulting basis. I feel like, boy, in the ERP space, I wish that there were more paid pre-sales processes. Just seems like people rush through the sales process so fast because they're not paying for it, right? It makes sense that you would do that. Yeah, I can't remember the other thing I wanted to ask you. We did talk about pricing on your product. Yeah, how much the product costs. Bummer. I feel like we got all the way around the basis, and I feel like there's a fifth base. I'm over home plate. There was a fifth base I wanted to ask, but oh well. I'm gonna. We can edit out this awkward silence here while I ponder. Give me a second.
Okay, good.
Man, I lost it. Don't give up on me yet. Hold on.
I'm not. I've got all the time you need because I know it's a good question.
So this might not have been it, but I'm heading in the direction. And I guess where I was going with that 50,000 foot level discussion was companies could all do a better job of pricing, right?
Yes.
And I just got it back. It just came back. You talked about competitor pricing,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is a big driver of everyone's pricing, right? It's what can the person down the street offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually worked with a client that it kind of blew my mind to realize they had access to this data because they're in a heavily government regulated industry. They
Mm-hmm.
can actually go onto a government website and see every product sold by every one of their competitors.
It's amazing.
And
It's
they're
amazing.
scraping that data. So
Mm-hmm.
we worked on scraping that data, getting it into Power BI so they could see that, right?
Yep.
And so they actually know their market size and their percentage of the market. They can calculate that, right?
That's beautiful.
For most companies, doing that is very difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they pay people a lot of money to kind of know the market, right? When you were talking about competitive pricing, and I think you said that you don't do this. What I was envisioning though was a way to start capturing that data. And
Mm-hmm.
salespeople are hearing about this, right? Whether it's
Oh
accurate
my
or
gosh.
not,
Mm-hmm.
who knows? But
Yep.
they know for a given customer, for a given product, this is the price they think they're getting.
Hmm.
Have you worked on any projects where you enable the collection of that data? Because you then talked about like artificial intelligence to analyze it,
Right.
et cetera. But what about just the collecting of it? Do you have any
No,
practical ideas on that?
yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant thing, and I'm so glad that you are asking this question. It's amazingly simple, because it's just an attribute in Acumatica. So if you've got a salesperson talking to a customer saying, "Hey, I can get that for $1.39 down the street, and you're charging me $1.45," then you can say, "Oh, $1.39. Go to to the item screen and add current competitive price, $1.39." Guess what? That's an attribute you can now use in the engine, RPM engine.
So here's where I think it's a little different. And this is what I was thinking about this as you were talking about the competitive pricing. I I want more than that. What
Okay.
I want is a grid. I want a grid where a salesperson can go in and just say, for this customer, for this item, this is the price. And
Hmm.
actually, you know what? Let's throw a third field in there for this competitor. So that would be a lookup field as well. Customers already a lookup field that you have in
Hmm.
Acumatica, items a lookup field, and then you have some place to maintain a list of competitors, right? So
Competitive
you have to
pricing.
pick
Yep.
it from a list. You don't just
Hmm.
type it in.
Yep.
And then fourth thing you put in is the price. Those
Hmm.
four things. If we had a grid to like, and I'm just kind of dreaming up a screen in
Hmm.
Acumatica here, right? If we had a way to capture that, maybe it's not even in Acumatica because Acumatica is not super friendly for data entry. There's other tools
Right.
like mobile apps and things. A mobile app
Yep.
might be better for this.
Mhm.
A way to just for salespeople just to kind of hammer in things that they're hearing on the street, right?
Yep.
You would be automatically calculating which salesperson entered that, when
Mhm.
they entered that, and they
Mhm.
could enter another price for the same customer, same competitor, same item, right? A week
Mhm.
later or even a
Yep.
day later, right?
Yep.
Just capturing that data would be huge. And then I think
Yeah.
it is, I like how you brought up artificial intelligence. I think that is an artificial intelligence problem to be able to then sift through that and come up with your competitor's pricing strategy, essentially, if you collected enough data, right?
Sure.
That'd be an interesting thing to do. Yeah, I mean, getting salespeople to do data entry is pretty difficult to do. So I think a lot of that would come down to the user interface on such a thing. But I think those
Agreed.
four data points would be all you
It
would
it
need. You would just need
I
a ton of data, and it would be really interesting to look at.
I think so too, and I think it and but even if you even had that data though, um, RPM could consume it. I certainly could do is like give me the average of the last 10 months of pricing for this product. If you have that data, we can do that. It's
Sure.
just having that data is the trick. So
That'd be a great AI project because I mean, AI is
it
good at
would.
then telling you which salespeople are overinflating their numbers and
Mhm.
which are not, that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
oh, that'd be
And
fascinating to
and
play.
AI could also go out and collect the information as well on a very, how it could potentially scour like these government websites where all the pricing, all that stuff. I could probably, I know, for instance, you can go scrub like Home Depot and Lowe's for hardware items. Like,
Sure, sure.
you
Yeah,
know,
to me, that's not even like AI. That's just like
it's more like
automation,
robot crawling.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but for so many companies, especially in the mid market, that's not on a website, right?
Yep.
Although I guess more and more companies have e-commerce websites, you can go out and scrape that. But just be able to collect that and dump it in from Excel or
Hmm.
put it into a mobile app, have a multiple
Totally.
entry points, and be able to collect those four data points. That would be very interesting because I just feel like so many companies could be doing pricing better. I'm not
Yes.
a pricing expert at all. I
Hmm.
just know that they could be doing pricing better, right? And it all comes down to really it comes down to competitors, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's the market that's driving the pricing, and the problem is you don't really know the market. The
Right.
best talking salesperson gets looked up to as the person who knows the market, but the reality is they don't.
Hmm.
This is really a data problem when you try to do it at any type of scale, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would, uh, le- not every company is worried about competitor pricing. And in fact, it only comes up about a third of the time in some of our
Oh,
deals,
okay.
because a lot of in it. I think there's two reasons for that. One is because that's just one more level of sophistication. We're just trying to get the doors open and the lights on. So thinking about your competitor pricing and reacting to it is advanced skill. The other half don't care because there's a lot of great companies out there. I mean, think about Apple. They don't care about the competitor price. It's like, this is the price of our product. You want to buy it or not? We provide such stellar service. We provide all these extra things. We know the market really well. We just set our own prices. And so we're not worried about competitor prices. And so when it comes to pricing, I'm actually not having the competitor component come in nearly as often as I thought it would. But when it, when it's
Interesting.
when it's there, it's there. Yeah, because there's a lot of people like, look, this is the price. It just is.
That is exactly the kind of insight that I was curious about. So,
Okay.
go ahead and throw out that bold ballpark gut feel number again. You were guessing that about a third of the time. Walk me through that again.
Yeah, about of the clients that we deal with who are having pricing challenges and need our solution, I'd say about a third that a component of their pricing is what their competitors are the competitive pricing. The rest of them
Less than
don't.
half,
Less
basically.
than, oh, definitely less than half,
Wow.
I would say. The
Interesting.
rest of them, it's not a component at all. It may be something they're thinking about or that, but in another reason that could be also is that it's a sophisticated thing, but it's like, okay, well, I could think about my competitors' prices, but my God, how would I collect that? How you go down this AI rabbit hole, like, oh my God, I don't have
Yeah.
time to think about that. That's just
Yeah.
so overcoming. So I'm just going to stick with what I have, and I that may be part of the reason. But as things get going, especially, man, AI is just it's fascinating what it can do. Yeah.
Yeah, for that, so let's break it down to the thirds for my simple brain. Yeah, let's say
Yep.
that a third don't care, they're Apple.
Yep.
Another third care, but have no idea how to get it. And
Yep.
then another third really care about it, and that's the third
They
that
would
you're
hear about
hearing
it.
about, right?
Exactly.
So that middle third that care but have no idea how to approach it, that would be a
Hmm.
fascinating project for someone out there, right? And there's probably someone who
Totally.
does it, right? I remember implementing Acumatica for a company that they I could not come up with the pricing. Like,
Hmm.
and it wasn't complicated pricing. It was like, just give me any kind of formula on a whiteboard, right? And they were just terrified of losing a specific product to this. In this case, it was very local. So it was literally the company down the street. And but what they looked at is they looked at the manufacturer catalogs. So
Hmm.
it was only about 4 or 5 manufacturers, and it was an old school industry with these paper catalogs. And I'm like, we have the data. It's like it's here in this printed copy. I just didn't have enough time to like figure out how to just OCR it. That's not even artificial intelligence. That is not even machine learning. That's OCR technology to bring that in and
Yep.
be able to do it fast enough so that when you get the next printed version, right, you'd be able to
Mhm.
ingest it again. If we could have just done that on that project, we would have had all the data we needed, but uh,
Geez. Yep.
it's blocking and tackling at that point, right?
Yeah.
And those types of problems fascinate me because as much talk as there is about AI and the software
Mhm.
Silicon Valley, I feel like, is more of a marketing agency than a
Yeah,
software agency at this point. Like, they're just so good at making us think we need stuff that we don't really need. But there are
totally.
so many like problems that are very solvable with very real non
Mhm.
theoretical tools like
Totally.
digesting those pricing books, right? That, oh man, to me, that
I
getting, if I could get the budget for that to work on that, it would deliver so much value. But
totally.
oh man,
Yeah, but that's a wonderful story you shared. Do you remember just how paralyzed they were to pick up the marker and touch the whiteboard? To
yeah, no, incredibly
Yeah, they're just
paralyzed. So,
paralyzed, right?
but here's what was amazing about it. What they did instead,
Mhm.
they reviewed every single invoice. And
Okay.
so the guy who did it, I mean, he went on a vacation to Florida during the implementation, and he was the invoices still had to go out. So that's what he did at night on his vacation. So it's like they could deal with that pain, but they couldn't get it on a whiteboard. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, oh, it was so painful.
I
Like, this is so close, but I couldn't
Totally.
get there. I couldn't get
Well,
there.
it's incredibly relatable for me because going back to people who are really proud of how complicated their pricing is, but then they're despondent because it's so complex, is when I ask them really simple questions. Customer A, customer B, they're getting a different price for this one same item. Why? And they become paralyzed because they can't put into words why. And yet they
Yeah.
have a process and they have this algorithm and that's, Excel sheets deep. Ultimately, and he's like, well, I just know that one's $1.22 and that one's $1.23. Okay, but you know that because you've experienced, but how did you get there? Well, and then you start the conversation and they start to loosen up and you realize that ultimately it's a number and a reason. Everything about pricing runs down to a number and a reason. And when we've taken those building blocks down to numbers and reasons, that's what our whole product is built on. It's little tiny those, you build them into modules, you build them, and then you put them into sets together, and you end up with an infinitely dimensional pricing sheet. That's
My
how it
experience on
works.
these types of problems, I'm curious if this resonates with you, that these problems are not, sorry, not problems. Being able to untangle these things
Yes.
is not a computer programmer skill. It's
No,
more of a therapist skill.
it is. It is.
Being able to listen, empathize,
Hmm.
and get them to keep talking about it
Yes.
without kind of walling off, right?
Yep.
Being able to draw it out because there's stories behind every reason
There,
why,
there
right?
is, and when you and you can see some of these people, their emotional wrecks as they start telling, because they're, for whatever reason, it's like sharing their like vivid sexual history or something deeply personal, is because there's embarrassment and shame about, well, I'm going to tell you how we do pricing, but really is I don't know, and I've been faking it all this time, and so they got imposter syndrome, along with, um, I really don't know, and I just know that it's working and we're making money, and it's hard to describe, but when you get through, oh, and plus my boss is watching me, or I'm going to
Sure.
get in trouble, or I'm going to lose my job once we realize how simplify this, if you oversimplify this, I won't, I'll be so many. So I think it's so important to recognize the emotional impact of change management in general, especially when it comes to software, and work with people to say, yeah, I can, that can be scary, or just honor where they're at, and then still, but once you get them to open up and say, yep, it's we do things this way. Oh, here's enough. I forgot about this little hidden sheet over here in Excel, and you just talk about it, and then you make a list and say, okay, you've put out on the table every Excel spreadsheet, every reason here, and then your promotions here. Is this everything? And they go, yeah. I say, okay, now I'm just going to organize them in a nice little neat little pile, and then, okay, do I still, now look at this pile and notice that we're just going A, B. It's a 7-step process. Do you see that we cover every situation of your pricing? And they're like, yeah. I said, just think about it. Is there any, did we miss anything? Like, no. Said, anything over there? No. And now that we have a 7-step process, let's put it in the system, in this RPM, and it'll make sense. And now, do you understand how step 3 is over here and step 5 is over in this part of the system? Do you get how you just change those things and the whole stack makes sense now? Oh yeah. So we can simplify that because it can be scary. Totally can be scary.
And I like your transparency earlier where you said, you'll tell them up front, you have 10 salespeople right now, you're probably gonna only need 8 or whatever after this. Because that's good, honest conversation to have. Because in some
Hmm.
cases, that's not gonna work. And so, all right, well, that's you just need to know what's probably gonna happen. And I'm curious if you ever have the conversation, especially with the person you're working it through, you might lose your job, but you might get rehired into another job, so to speak, right? I mean, is that a
Yeah.
conversation you have?
No, but the reality is that people who are, for whatever reason, I can't actually think of an exception to this. People who are doing pricing, it was given to them and it's their third job. And so anything you can do, they got plenty of other things to do for job security that are actually often more important, but yet this is critical and it comes up. And this got handed on my lap 4 years ago. And now I'm the pricing expert who manages this off book Excel spreadsheet from hell. And I have to do this every Tuesday, and I haven't had a vacation in years. I've actually run into people who are in charge of that and have not had vacations in years because of their reliability on that. And I feel so sad. I'm like, wow, let's share that process. Let's get it automated. Let's get it in a place where we can understand it and maintain it, and the whole team can, so that you can have a vacation.
That's totally one angle. So then I was thinking of another angle, which is the AI is going to replace my job angle, right? And
Hmm.
I feel like as much as that is scary, in my opinion, the reality of it is yes, by implementing whatever software this is, you might lose your job as you know it today.
Hmm.
But good people who have good people skills, who are trustworthy, show up to work on time, put in a full day's work, who don't lie, who have good hygiene, who, uh, aren't talking about weird stuff in the office and who are nice
Right.
to be around, right? People who are I don't know what the summary of that is, but good people
Good
are
people.
going to keep their job, and even if you
Totally.
lose your job as you know it,
Mhm.
you can, in a sense, get rehired, not officially, but your role changes, right? So
Yeah,
that you're getting out of the mechanics of things and you're getting into the strategy of things, and that is a higher value skill. And even though
absolutely.
you could keep doing the mechanics day in and day out, it's more fun to do a higher value. And in theory, you're worth more with the higher value, whether it's at your current company or at your next job in the market, right?
Totally. All right, and I don't think anybody in our team has the fear of being of losing their job due to some type of automation or AI. I get that that's real because there are endless things to do in our company, and we have everybody in our team is greatly skilled at so many things, and we're often moving into other projects. But man, if we could free up something that they do, great. That just means more time for them to use there because we only have and keep and maintain great people. So yeah, and we do move people around. Like Jen, our operations person, she's been with us 15 years now. She started in sport, and now she's like almost running the company. And yeah, just her skill set's amazing, and we adore and love her. But yeah, if you're a decent person, and she's an amazing person, you will not have a problem. But yeah, if you're punching the clock and you do you're screwing caps on toothpaste tubes, and that's all you do, yeah, I can see if you aspire for nothing more, that could be a challenge.
Even though we know you could do more, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can grow and evolve, and you can do more.
Yeah.
So you brought up people. Do you have like how many employees do you have, or ballpark?
We're right around 20 people.
And are you all in the, you said, Colorado area, or are you kind of spread out?
No, we've been virtual before virtual is cool. We've had offices off and on for a couple people, mainly for our salespeople because they need human interaction. So we have a small office for a while. We have quite a few people in Fargo, North Dakota, because of the Great Plains history.
Okay,
But currently we have people in the U.S. in all four time zones, and we have closed any of our physical offices certainly during COVID. We've only had like just a few people in one anyway. But we're completely virtual now, and I happen to live in Colorado. It's a wonderful place to live, and due to the power of the internet, can live anywhere. And we actually have one of our team members who is moving to Panama, but keeping their U.S. residency. And
cool.
and we're like, yeah, as long as you've got that, as long as we can legally make that work with the U.S. residency and being able to employ you, that's not a problem. And she's an amazing employee as well. All of our team is every one of our people is wonderful. So we would try to make that really flexible. Like, yep, wherever you want to live, as long as it's within reason and you can get on and do your job. Yeah, that sounds great to me.
How about ballpark number of customers, total customers?
Oh, in Rockton's history, we're current customers. We just did a tally was around 2,700, I believe, and across all of our different ISV products.
And
Yeah,
then how about
we're good.
Acumatica specifically? You said you're kind of newer into the
Acumatica
Acumatica
spend. We're
space.
newer in that. We're crossing with Acumatica and RPM. We're crossing about a dozen, so we're definitely
Okay,
newer with this market specifically.
that's solid.
Uh, yeah, but but with Omni Price in the past, I think that count was around 300 or so.
Okay,
So, and we are definitely because it does more than Omni Price. We're trying to move some of those people over. Although, because Omni Price does like an extra discount and an extra slight, there's actually some people that still works for them. But it's like, well, you can have you can have it all if you go to RPM.
cool.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing those numbers.
yeah,
Future ISVs on the podcast, be warned. I like asking stuff like that. You don't have to share it,
yeah.
but I appreciate the
It
transparency when you do.
it's scary to share because what after that comes judgment. Like, oh my gosh, what is that? Like,
A dozen customers in the Acumatica space, in my opinion, is solid.
yeah,
One or two, I think, is, and that's really the number one question I have when I'm walking through the marketplace. Like, I look
yeah.
at all the booths, and I just wish there was a number of Acumatica customers above every single booth. Then I would know like who I really want to talk to and who I don't. And to me,
Oh
a
my
dozen
God.
is solid. Like, my gut feel, I have no idea, but I'm like, out of all the people in the marketplace at Summit, do even half of these companies have more than 5 Acumatica customers? I just don't know, but that's why I feel like I'm swimming with sharks when I walk through there.
I love that, and not only do I love that question, I'm actually for I think we might do that in our booth because I think it is. When you're walking down the show, you don't know, like, are you just a fly by night? Or are you just new in this operation? And we are new in Acumatica space with this, absolutely. But we're not new to pricing. We're not new to software and providing amazing service and all that stuff. We've got an amazing reputation. I'd say in the GP space, we're number 4 or 5 of the top ISVs that are well known, well respected, and from a market share, we've hit thousands of customers, and that's rare. It's very rare.
Yeah, I feel like your numbers there are Great Plains customers, Acumatica customers, and Acumatica ISV since whatever date, because then you
Hmm.
put those two numbers together. The number of Acumatica customers gets
Oh,
tied into
yeah,
that date, right? So you're like,
right,
oh,
yeah,
okay, that number is not too low because you
because we
haven't been an
started just
ISV that
last
long.
year or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But that makes me think, since you still have time so far, I wonder if you could comment on the Great Plains Acumatica correlation. You had a little bullet point in your email, and I have no contractual relationship with Acumatica, so
Hmm.
whatever you say is fine with me. You, of course, say whatever is fine with you about your comparisons between the two and where Acumatica's at now.
Okay. Yeah, my wife may kill me. We'll see. My wife, by the way, co-owns our company, and we do everything together. We've been married 30 years, and it's been a wonderful journey. But she is the CEO, and she's the big picture planner, and she sometimes is cringes when I speak publicly.
Well, I
So
don't want to get you in trouble on
oh
that, so
no,
never mind.
you won't get me in
No
trouble.
pressure.
Just a warning about, to preface my thing. What I absolutely adored and loved about Great Plains is that we had it was just a culture fit. The way they treated their customers, their partners, everybody in the ecosystem made a lot of sense. And Microsoft bought them up, and slowly that culture eroded into a Microsoft culture. And whereas I would say the Great Plains culture was people first, we improve the lives and business success of our customers and partner of our customers um, and partners. Yeah, that's what it is. That's theirs. We actually adopted that to we improve the lives and business success of our employees and our customers because we treat employees incredibly well. Great Plains people did that as well. Microsoft, as a publisher, makes every decision based on one factor first, and that is how much money is this going to make us. Money is all that matters, and what it does to people, how it destroys their lives, wipes out other smaller companies, is not a factor. It's a financial decision, and I think it's not something I value. I used to fight with that a lot, and thinking that was wrong, but ultimately I realized it's not just wrong; it's just a different value than I have, and I can choose to play in this space or not. So I'm we're winding down our Microsoft relationship through, but keeping it with certainly Great Plains. But I don't have any interest in continuing working the dynamic space, even though they have other products there, because I don't align with the culture.
You just mean like
So
expanding your Dynamics footprint outside of GP is what you mean, right?
outside of
Yeah.
GP,
Yeah.
I would say with a caveat though is that this pricing product we are going to bring the BC Dynamics
Okay.
BC is next.
That makes sense.
So and if there's room there, we'll conquer every ERP out there because it's really powerful, and there isn't, as far as we can tell, there's not really any tools on the market for any ERP out there that do quite what we do. Anyway, getting back to culture, when we knew that we needed to pivot because GP is on the decline, and we talked to other partners that went to, like, say, NetSuite and Acumatica, Intact, and I got really excited by people who are close to the people who I share values with, or ones who become the best friends. They all seem to be really picking up on Acumatica. So I went to Acumatica probably about 5 years ago, and I was really impressed. I felt like their culture was very similar to the early days of Great Plains. They were very into the human connection. They're into a rising tide raises all boats, and how can we make this work together? And I think that's what really attracted me to it. I think also behind that they got solid software, and it's some great technology there. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. That's where ISVs come in. We can fix those problems if we need to. But they're so many of their staff is developers, and like they're really development heavy. That's great. But They had a VC acquisition a couple of years ago, and every time that happens, or some VC money, however you want to phrase that, whenever that happens with any company, the first thing they say is, "But don't worry, that's not going to change your culture. We still love you, and everything's going to be, peachy keen." And I would say of all the companies it's happened to, Acumatica has done the best, but it is undeniable that the culture has shifted. That inside of Acumatica, one of the biggest changes that disappoints me is, and it's really subtle, and I had to have some other people point it out to me, is if you look at their bill of rights or the customer bill of rights or whatever, um, that they used to promote and have in there a mention of partners, that they would take care of partners. The word partner has been removed from all of their goals. So they're not partner centric anymore. They're customer centric, which is a very NetSuite like model, which I'm not supportive of. Um, and so there is that shift of how can we deal more directly with the customer, because it's more financially viable to deal direct with the customer. But what every publisher in the ERP space misses is you have to have a good VAR, you have to have good ISVs, because you have to have support, because these things are complicated. And I mean, just getting help from Microsoft with the most benign thing takes two weeks to solve a recent thing just to get in as a partner to sign up for something. It's ridiculous. I like to be able to call up a human being, and if I don't, or enter a support case and know it's going to get answered. Acumatica does a pretty good job of that, of setting timelines. Like, we're going to answer your support case in this time. But if something goes wrong, there's 3 people that I can name right now in Acumatica where I've got their phone number, I've got their email, and I can say, "Hey, I've got this issue. It's bothering me in this way. It's affecting this customer, and I need somebody to push some button in your big machine to get somebody to help." And within an hour, usually, they're like, "Oh, I'm on it. I'll help you." They push the right button, and somebody's suddenly on the phone helping you with a problem. That is rare in companies the size of Acumatica, and that's what I applaud them for. But they're definitely getting more financially motivated. They are going to turn into Microsoft. It is an inevitable progress, and so this time around, I'm a little more prepared for it, and just saddened by it. But that's how the corporate world tends to run when it's VC backed, unfortunately. But in my company, I get the power to choose that if I publish my phone number, and if something goes wrong, and some things do go wrong, um, because of you can figure out who the owner is from the name of our company, um, you know where to go. And I don't mind that customers, especially when it's a real bad problem, I'd like to hear about it. And I take care and I take the calls. One of my favorite stories, I had a customer call me at 10 p.m. on a Friday night. I had just gotten out of a theatrical show that I went and saw, and they were in a system down. They were trying to upgrade over the weekend. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm glad you called me." He had my number. I said, "Yeah, here's what you need to do. Do this, 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 and this." And on the phone, and I happened to know the solution and got him up and running. Don't mind, because we care about customers. I know what it's like to be down on a Friday night and your whole weekend's ruined. We got to be up by Monday morning. What are we going to do? And I wish more companies had that human perspective, but I don't get to choose. I can choose what I do in my company, though. And we choose people. We choose people first.
That's a very wise and seasoned perspective, and everything you shared there about Acumatica will become Microsoft. That sentiment is something I'm hearing over and over and over again from different VARs, and it is sad, right?
Hmm.
But it's just the way the world works, and we that's just what it is. So yeah, I really appreciate that perspective, especially comparing it to Great Plains, because I've also heard that comparison a lot. And
Yeah.
yeah, you've lived through it once, and now here it
Mhm.
goes, round two, and you're just better prepared for what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Mark, I took a lot of your time today, and
Okay.
really enjoyed the conversation.
So have
Thank
I.
you
This
so
has been
much.
delightful. You ask great questions, and it's wonderful how technical you are as well. Because I mean, you get things that I just natively like. Well, you just explained better. I've got so many notes on my notepad about marketing. 41 minutes in, listen to what Tim said. Let's copy what he said. He was more succinct than I am. It's great. Appreciate that. And it's man, I love the questions you ask, and I can also tell just energetically, we seem to share a lot of the same values, and I really like that.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for coming on, and look forward to meeting you at the upcoming summit.
Sounds great. Thank you, Tim.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of ogforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening, and take care.